Hey everyone, Richard Metal Fan here, still continuing the Black Sabbath discography review, and today we're going to be talking about Dehumanizer, album number 16, released in 1992. But before we go into that, let's talk about what they've been through, going through 1991 or two or so. Of course, the band had a huge lineup change. Afterwards, Tony Martin, from what I heard, he was fired from Black Sabbath. I'm not really sure about the whole reason why, but I heard it was through a phone call. And then it was around the time where, of course, original bassist Geezer Butler had rejoined Black Sabbath on this album. And I thought he was great because I think, in my opinion, Geezer has some really great bass lines, whether it be like that intro bass solo in NIB. Yeah, I just think it just really isn't Black Sabbath without Geezer. And then, of course, around the time, their drummer, Cozy Powell, I believe, he was involved in like a horse accident, or he fell off a horse and got hurt, so he couldn't play drums. So on this album, they, of course, features the return of the late great Ronnie James Dio on vocals and Vinny Appice on drums. So they pretty much have the Mob Rules lineup have reunited after almost a decade apart. And with this album, I think, in my opinion, I love this album. I think, in my opinion, it's a very underrated Black Sabbath album. Like, nobody ever really talks about this album. Produced by, of course, Mac for Musicland GMHB, and produced by Black Sabbath. And, of course, let's just talk about, like, Ronnie James Dio. My favorite vocalist of all time. And you could tell that he has a great range. He could go from, like, the softer kind of stuff to, like, the more kind of, I don't know, it's hard to know. I can't really say anything really about Ronnie James Dio that hasn't been said already. And Tony Iommi, riff god, nothing else I could say really. The same thing with Geezer and Vinny. So, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Computer God. Now, this, in my opinion, is my favorite song on the album, and I think it's a great way to start this album. And I think Vinny opens the song with a really great drum intro that really demonstrates how underrated he is. And I think he's one of the most underrated drummers in metal, period. And I find the drums over the clanging of the metal in the background sets like a good tone for the song and the album. And then Tony has a great riff, and then Dio comes in with his sick melodies. And Geezer also has some moments that is a little bass in there. And about halfway in, there's the second chorus, and then the song slows down for a wonderful clean guitar part where Dio really shows his beauty behind his voice. And then the song picks back up for one more short moment before exploding to like a final quicker section. Now, next song is After All, in parentheses, The Dead. Now, this is a song that kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Ozzy era. It has that kind of like slow kind of doomy riffing with an overall kind of dark atmosphere. But if you think like Dio can't contribute to the dark atmosphere like Ozzy did, listen to this song. I feel like he manages something that Ozzy wouldn't do. Not to say that Ozzy isn't dark, but I think Dio just matches up that kind of darkness and kind of vibe with it. Next up is TV Crimes. Now, this song opens up with some crazy drumming and some chords over it, and then shortly after comes some riffing, and I feel like this song means business from the beginning. And then it's a very up-tempo kind of song, and it covers the topic of religion, but Dio delivers the lyrics in such an amazing fashion that you could care less what he's singing about. That doesn't mean the lyrics aren't good, because they fucking are. Next up is Letters from Earth. Now, Tony has a ton of underrated riffs on this song. Like, the intro riff has a great flow, and the verse riffs have an aggressive groove. And just the riff they uses right before the solo is super heavy, and the vocal melodies from Dio have a very distinct feel that separates from the riff, but I feel like it still connects back to it. And the chorus is a very catchy one, and Vinny connecting the dots, the fills, and I don't know, just an overall really good song, and it's very atmospheric, weight fitting for the title of the song. Next up is Master of Insanity. Now, this song is pretty much mainly just Geezer Butler all over it. I heard this was actually like a song that was carried over from one of his solo projects, but then Black Sabbath really changed very little about it. Like the riffs are pretty much identical and a lot of the vocal melodies remain the same, and the chorus is exactly the same. If you haven't heard like the demo from the Spanish track, I would recommend just checking that out. But I feel like the only difference is it kind of sped up a little bit, and I don't know. And I just love like that bass intro before like Tony comes in with the sick riff, and then the Dio's blend of anger and beauty is just really in there, and the chorus in there is powerful and catchy, and it has a really great drum work and a really great bass hook. Next up is a Time Machine. Now, Time Machine is a pretty good song, but compared to what we've heard so far from like the first half of the album, it's nothing like really special. I mean, it has some shining moments, like the intensity of Dio's vocals and a little short bass gem from Geezer halfway through, but other than that, I don't think that song isn't really too memorable. Next song on the album is Sins of the Father. Now, this is a very mid-paced song. It's kind of the epic on Dehumanizer, and Dio sounds really great at the beginning, and especially there's like a breakdown at around 2 minutes and 20 seconds. It's just, that riff gets you every time, especially in the lyrics, like they call it a mystery, but any fool can see. It's one of the greatest moments, and I don't know, it's just a great song. Next up is Too Late. Now, Too Late, this song is just beauty, and the track on here where Dio shows the least anger and gives sort of like the most melodicness into his voice, and then Tony Iommi opens up with some great acoustic guitar part and Dio's kind of vocals. Like, you could definitely tell he has that kind of very emotion behind it. And then Vinny comes in with his drum parts, and he's able to display a lot of power in there. I mean, this song isn't all acoustic, though. I feel like Tony goes from acoustic to electric for the second chorus, but then Dio gets more aggressive once the electric guitar kicks in. I think it's a pretty good song. Next up is I. Now, this is just pure Dio era Black Sabbath, and has some really great signature heady riffs from Tony. And this is another song where Dio's anger kind of shines through and sort of enhances the mood. Despite the anger on this song and his vocals in the chorus, it has a very almost kind of like uplifting feeling. And I feel like Dio is like the only singer that can just make his vocals just really great in just a powerful way. And then Geezer has a really great bass part under the chorus, and it's another Geezer part that's just hard not to notice. And then we end the album with Buried Alive. Now, Buried Alive is a great way to end this album. Like, Tony's riff sounds just very powerful, and then Dio's vocals have a bit of distortion on them that makes it sound like you're just in anger, and then the vocal melodies switch between the anger and the fear. It gives like a very haunting kind of vibe to it, and I think this is, in my opinion, the most extreme kind of song that Black Sabbath has ever done. And then I just think it's a great way to end this album. Now, overall, Dehumanizer by Black Sabbath, a very underrated album. This discography, via part of the Dio era, and sadly this is the last album under the Dio era Black Sabbath, although they would reunite for one more album, but it would be under Heaven and Hell, with their only album, The Devil You Know, released in 2009. If I should cover that, let me know in the comments. But if I were to give this album a score, I'm going to give Dehumanizer by Black Sabbath a 9.5 out of 10. So that's my review of the album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.